Hey there, and welcome to This Explainer. If you're currently feeling burnt out, fatigued, or just completely overwhelmed by modern life, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're going to entirely reframe how we look at the natural world. See, we've kind of been conditioned to think of nature as a luxury, right? Like a vacation destination or maybe a casual weekend hobby. But the science tells a totally different story. All the way back in the 1980s, a researcher named Roger Ulrich proved that hospital patients recovering from surgery actually healed faster and needed fewer painkillers if their window simply looked out at a tree rather than a brick wall. So today, we're looking at nature not as a luxury, but as a heavily researched, highly effective medical necessity.
Okay, so let's dive right into this. For decades, we've known anecdotally that going outside just feels good. But if you're anything like me, you want the hard data. If modern urban fatigue is the disease, we need a clear, evidence-based cure. So we really have to ask this exact question to the scientific community. How much nature does it actually take to biologically change your health? I mean, is it 10 minutes on a park bench? Is it a week-long camping trip out in the wilderness?
Well, it turns out the answer is exactly 120. A massive groundbreaking study of 20,000 people, led by Matthew White at the University of Exeter, discovered this specific magic number. 120 minutes, or just 2 hours a week, is the absolute minimum weekly dosage required to separate the chronically stressed from the thriving. And what researchers found is that this 120-minute threshold is a hard boundary. If you don't hit those 2 hours a week, you simply don't see the health benefits. But man, once you do, the positive effects are incredibly robust. Plus, it doesn't even matter how you get those minutes. It could be a single 2-hour hike on a Saturday or spread out over a bunch of daily walks. And get this applies to absolutely everyone. It cuts across different occupations, ethnic groups, rich and poor areas, and even people with chronic illnesses and disabilities.
So, let's break down the data in Section 1, the 120-minute threshold.
To really understand this threshold, take a look at this quote from journalist Richard Louv. He's actually the author who coined the term nature deficit disorder. He points out that the academic world has shifted drastically on this topic. We're moving way past the idea of a walk in the park being just a nice thing to do if you happen to have the free time. With nearly 1,000 studies pointing in the exact same direction, going outside has fundamentally shifted from a casual pastime to a strict biological necessity for your physical health and your cognitive function.
The Global Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides has this fantastic, punchy slogan that I just absolutely love. The forest is the therapist. The guides just open the door. Take a breath and just think about that for a second. You don't have to do anything active to heal. The environment itself is doing the heavy lifting for your mental and physical recovery. You literally just have to show up.
So how exactly is the environment doing all that heavy lifting? Let's find out in Section 2, Rewiring the Stressed Brain. It all starts with this fascinating concept called attention restoration theory, or ART for short. Developed by environmental psychologists Rachel and Stephen Kaplan in the 1980s, this theory explains how our brain's attention systems literally get fatigued. Think of it just like a muscle that you've worked out way too hard at the gym. Your brain's cognitive resources get completely depleted by the demands of modern life, and they require a very specific type of environment to actually recover.
And this comparison brilliantly illustrates the core of the Kaplan's theory. Basically, our brains operate using two types of attention. First, there's voluntary attention, which is highly effortful. It's exactly what you use to rapidly focus on a complex spreadsheet, navigate insanely busy city traffic, or frantically answer stressful emails. And because it's so effortful, it gets exhausted very quickly. Involuntary attention, on the other hand, is completely effortless. It's triggered by what researchers call soft fascination. Watching rustling leaves, clouds moving lazily across the sky, or just listening to the rhythm of rainfall. When nature steps in and engages our effortless involuntary attention, it finally gives our exhausted voluntary attention the necessary space to rest, recover, and rewire.
Okay, let's peel back the layers and look at the exact cellular triggers in Section 3, Nature's Active Ingredients.
The crucial point to understand here is that nature is literally full of bioactive ingredients. First up, we have phytonicides. These are antimicrobial volatile organic compounds, essentially nature's essential oils, secreted by trees like pines and cedars. Next, and I was amazed to find this out, there is Mycobacterium vaccae. This is a harmless but surprisingly powerful microorganism found right in the soil. Then we have fractals. These are self-similar mathematical visual patterns found in things like tree branches and snowflakes. Physicist Richard Taylor actually found that our eyes are evolutionarily hardwired to process these specific natural patterns, instantly reducing our stress. Add in sunlight boosting our serotonin and vitamin D, and natural sounds like moving water shifting our nervous system out of fight or flight, and you've got yourself a wildly potent biological cocktail.
I want to zoom in on that dirt bacteria, M. vaccae, for a second, because the science here is truly mind-blowing. Researchers at Bristol University injected this common soil bacteria into mice and put them through some stress tests. The mice that received the soil bacteria acted, quote, as if on antidepressants. No joke. You are quite literally getting a profound mood boost directly from the dirt. Mother Nature's pharmacy is literally right under our boots. Simply interacting with this dirt bacteria activated groups of neurons in the brain responsible for producing serotonin and dramatically reduced anxiety and inflammation.
And look at the sheer power of those tree aerosols, the phytoncides. Japanese researchers, including Dr. King Lee, studying the practice of forest bathing, found that a single 2-hour forest walk resulted in a massive 50% increase in anti-cancer natural killer, or NK cells, in the human immune system. Let's make that cause and effect super clear. You are physically breathing in a tree's chemical defense mechanisms, and in turn, it objectively boosts your own immune system's tumor-fighting cells. It's just incredible.
So, what happens when we zoom out from the cellular level to the macro level? Let's dive into Section 4, the healthcare ROI. A massive, updated 2024 umbrella review published in Frontiers in Public Health analyzed some seriously huge datasets. And it systematically proved that living near green spaces, like urban parks and forests, and blue spaces, like lakes, rivers, and coasts, acts as a powerful shield against a whole host of modern diseases. The data consistently shows significantly reduced all-cause mortality, a lower risk of developing type 2 diabetes, decreased rates of depression, and remarkably, even higher birth weights for newborns. Nature isn't just a place to visit, it is preventative medicine.
And get this, there is a literal, quantifiable dollar value attached to this preventative medicine. Researchers from Clemson University and Kaiser Permanente studied over 5 million people across Northern California. By mapping healthcare spending against satellite imagery of tree canopies, they found that living in areas with higher tree cover and green space resulted in an exact annual healthcare savings of $374 per person. So healthy urban forests are quite literally lowering our medical bills by millions of dollars.
Which brings us to a really practical solution in Section 5, the mini forest movement.
Now, I know many of you might be thinking, well, that's great, but what if I live in a concrete urban jungle? What if I don't have a sprawling national park nearby to get my 120 minutes? Let me introduce you to an absolute game-changer called the Miyawaki method. Developed by Japanese botanist Akira Miyawaki in the 1980s, this is a highly specific planting technique designed to grow incredibly dense, strictly native mini-forests in tiny, degraded urban spaces. Instead of taking 100 years to mature naturally, these mini-forests are engineered to mature into self-sustaining ecosystems in just decades.
And these miniature ecosystems are absolute environmental powerhouses. Because of the dense planting methods, they actually grow up to 10 times faster than conventional planting techniques. They can rapidly cool down local urban heat islands by up to 12 degrees Celsius, they absorb urban noise pollution, and they massively boost local biodiversity, bringing birds, pollinators, and complex fungal networks right back into the center of our cities.
And what's incredibly empowering about this is that you can do it yourself using the biggest mini forest, or BMF, model. Literally anyone can cultivate their own ecosystem in a space as small as 3 by 3 meters. First, you just observe your space to plan for water and sun. Then you design and choose your native and maybe even edible plants. Once you prepare the soil with rich organic matter, you plant densely, mulch heavily to retain moisture, and then you just step back to let nature and pollinators take over. You can literally grow a self-sustaining, food-producing forest in an average suburban backyard or schoolyard.
Start mini. Dream big. Consider this your friendly reminder that you do not need to travel to a massive nature reserve to reap the immense physical and mental benefits we've been talking about today. Whether it's planting a 3 by 3 meter mini forest, joining a local community garden, or honestly just making a conscious effort to walk down a tree-lined street, the healing power of nature is accessible and it is right there waiting for you.
Which brings us to our final thought for today. We now know the exact dosage. We understand the hard data, we've seen the cellular and the economic benefits. So the only question left to ask yourself is, where will you spend your 120 minutes this week? I highly challenge you to step outside, breathe in those phytocides, and let the forest be your therapist. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.